All right, welcome to Unintended Adventures, a play podcast where we'll be diving into Dungeon World, a game similar to D&D but less mechanical in nature. My name is Jeremy. I will be your host and game master. Joining me in this first campaign is our team of adventurers. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Alec. I'm going to be playing Handy, the Druid Goblin.
Hi, my name is Jake. I will be playing the Human Immolator.
My name is Matthew, and I will be playing the Paladin. They're human.
Hi, I'm Shiloh, better known online as Karish Valendar, and I will be playing your halfling, sticky-fingered rogue.
All right, so this episode is going to be a bit of a departure from the norm because this is our world-building episode. We're going to be playing The Ground Itself by Everest Pipkin. It's a short game where the five of us on a deck of cards are going to be used to create the world our adventures are going to take place in. If you want to get straight into the season, then you can skip this episode along with the next, which is going to be our character creation and introduction, and start with episode 1. But I think you should stick around. Improvised world building is always interesting. Now, this game is broken down into a few phases, which lend to imagination, description, and Q&A, followed by the passing of time on 4 different occasions. This is how our world will be shaped, so let's go ahead and breeze through the mechanics real quick to figure out how this game's going to operate. I'm going to be reading directly from the PDF. The setting for our game should be decided collaboratively. For example, one player may suggest a place that involves animals. Another player may amend this suggestion to mean a zoo. A third may agree but suggest making it a zoo planet, established as a biodiversity reserve in the far future. You may feel out multiple options, but try not to say no to others' suggestions. Rather, build on top of existing ideas or ask clarifying questions to create a place that is everyone's. I think not saying no is probably one of the coolest things about this is we're going to take part in this collectively, and we're all going to get to add to it. Remember that everything that we see happen over the course of this game occurs in this location. We cannot move outside of our established frame or see actions or events elsewhere. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in one place. This place does not need to be thoroughly mapped out. For now, the barest description may be summed up in a few sentences will suffice. We will discover it together during play. So right now, we can go around the table, take no more than a few minutes, make a few suggestions, and describe the world we're playing in. So we have a high fantasy setting. That's kind of our starting map. Alec, why don't you take it away and give us some food for thought?
How about we start with a continent? Is that too big?
No, I mean we could do as small as like a house, or as large as the world. I figured kind of the mainland that we're going to be on, or potentially even closer, like a district or state of. I know we have some things that are already in common across all of our characters, and zooming in close-ish to that could be interesting as well.
I was actually thinking of that as well. Because we've had some pre-talks, we could maybe even start with some farmland, maybe outside of a kingdom, and kind of get some neighboring regions and stuff. Let's see here. Because I know we talked about farms. I can pull off of my character. Growing up nearby some farmland in some woods, so I need to have some woods or forest and a neighboring settlement of some kind.
Jake, you got any other things you want to add?
Let's see. Well, we have the woods where he started his character, and then essentially because, like I said, all previous talks have been where my character starts as a farm, so it would be a farm up against, to an extent, a forest, which I would figure would be a couple of miles outside of or I guess the town or kingdom. Probably almost like a network of farms, almost to an extent. You'd have like necessarily together because I like almost have like different. Each farm kind of produces a different necessity. Like if one for livestock, and then you have your wheat farmers, or you have your vegetable farmers, and your are kind of just almost outlining this kingdom or town.
So my thought is we could just basically work on a kingdom. So if we think about the kingdom and its area of influence, it could be like 50, 60 square miles, which would include like small towns, all the farms, like everything kind of reports to like this one thing. And this whole area is kind of the place that we're talking about.
Gotcha.
Matthew?
That much like everyone else's, my prerequisites would be basically that, like a kingdom, lots of farmland adjacent to a mountain range. My character will hail from the farms on the edge of that mountain range. Like, think foot of the Rockies, right? Like that's pretty much where my character will hail from, which I feel like falls pretty well into everyone else's requirements for their characters.
Sounds good. Shiloh?
So we're looking for like things that we want in this kingdom, or just trying to narrow down.
More get a feel for the kingdom, I think.
Yeah, basic generic description of the area that we're going to be kind of focusing on.
Yeah, we have woods and we have mountains, and farmlands tend to have to be in pretty flat. So I'm envisioning something very similar to like what I call the boring part of Colorado, where there's cow farms everywhere and it's flat and nothing. So I think the weather tends to be a little bit leans towards cold, but not like Arctic. It has not as warm summers, and which helps them produce different crops than other kingdoms that have maybe more warmer climates.
So are we further north
I mean, it depends on what the world
or just
what the
higher
world
elevation?
It's definitely higher elevation for sure. Whether it's more north or south, or I don't know, maybe they spin sideways. So it's different.
What if
Or maybe
like
it's not a globe.
or maybe we're like we're in a very large crater of a mountain and we're surrounded by mountains. So we're already like super high up, but it's flat on the inside.
Like
Fertile
a
bowl.
dormant volcano kind of thing.
Yeah. But like huge.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's a fun idea. It kind of restricts our region. It's an interesting setting.
And it
Okay.
feeds into that farmland with it being the soil being the way it is.
So one of the big elements of this game is timeline, because we're going to mess with time. This game is played in 4 cycles. Each cycle is separated by a gap in time. Player will roll a 6-sided die and record the results. This die determines the unit of time that this gap is measured in, and the metric stays the same for the remainder of the game. A 1 means days, which might lend itself to an intimate and close textured story. A 6 means millennia. You are playing a game over thousands of years, and what was here that may not survive the jumps in recognizable ways. So 1 is days, 2 is weeks, 3 is years, 4 is decades, 5 is centuries, and 6 is millennia. This unit of time will affect the way the story is told. If you roll days, your actions should be quick-paced, happening in the now, so only a few hours may pass. If you rolled centuries or millennia, your now may be years or decades. They have as a option in the additional rules for this game to modify this so that every time you roll for time, instead of setting the time fixed in place at the start of the game, you roll a 2d6 instead, where the first one becomes whatever time period it's going to be, days, weeks, years. And then the second number is how many of those that's going to take place. I'm in favor of doing the chaos version because I think it's a lot more interesting to be like, okay, our first jump is days and then our second jump is centuries. And instead of at the beginning of this game, oh, we rolled weeks and we're going to play everything with just week changes.
I misread it when I initially read this, so I thought you rolled every single time a cycle was done.
Every time you draw 10.
Yeah, well, it says every time you draw a 10, you roll the die again, and that changes.
The way it works initially is we would roll before the game and then we would choose just a time. So if we roll a 2, our time frame is weeks, and it stays weeks for the entire game. Then when you roll a 10, or pick up a 10, you would roll a dice, and that determines how many weeks. So if you roll a 6, it's going to be 6 weeks pass. And then the next time you roll, 3 weeks pass. But it stays weeks the entire game. And instead of doing it that way, you can decide to roll 2d6, which your first one is how much time is going to pass, and then the length of that time. So it could be 2 weeks, and then our second roll could be 4 years. And then the last roll could be 1 millennium. What's that?
I said I like that version better, where it changes, because then you
Yep.
can have like shorter stories, but then you can also jump ahead like a millennia and see how the world's completely changed since then.
All right, dig it. Okay, establishing our place. Each player is dealt cards from face card stack in a circle until no cards are left. Then going in the same circle, each player sets down 1 card at a time and answers the question associated with that card, detailed below. They may read the question first or pick between their cards at random, keep going until the world feels established, or each player is out of cards, whichever happens first. Try to keep this to about 25 minutes. And we have our cards already set up. We're doing this digitally because we're not in person. All right. So we have that already set up. Alec, do you want to go ahead and draw the first card?
Woo. Okay, so we're drawing first. All right. And I'm drawing. Am I drawing from the face cards or the number cards?
Yes. We're going to run through all the face cards and then we'll move on to the numbered section.
All right. We have a Queen of Hearts.
All right. The Queen of Hearts. Who or what? A person, landmark, society has been in this place the longest. How did they come to be here?
I'm going to start with a group. So a group of, let's call them like starting out like hunter gatherers that evolved into like a hunting guild kind of thing. Maybe the people that maybe discovered this area, however many years and years and years ago in this area, it came with, people hunting and trying to learn about this land that they're in, and that evolved into a kind of like a hunter's guild type thing.
One of the things it says in the rules that, none of us is to try to contradict answers, but it is open for questions to the players once someone delivers their answer. So if someone wants to ask questions about said answer, feel free, and I'm going to take a stab at it. Do we have a race in mind of these people? Is it a mishmash?
I'll say a mishmash to keep it in the fantasy realm, elves, humans, dwarves, your typical fantasy races, probably a exploratory party of adventurers, but mostly hunting, because they needed to, provide for the people that were coming in. So that was the main, we'll call it a profession, if you will, or a class or skill set, but a mishmash.
All right. Well, if anyone's not speaking up quickly, I'm just going to move on to the next person.
I would be curious to know where, so do they operate out of the main city that is in the center of this crater? Or do they kind of operate outside of the city? Are they a guild in the way that they like report to the hierarchy of the area?
I'm thinking when we get to current day into our story, they will have little lodges, if you will, in each major city. Maybe some smaller cities of note, like crossroads that are heavily traversed and stuff like that. But what we'll probably know them as is a kind of like a guild structure, or like a hunter's guild, or my best equivalent is like the Slayer's Take, for those that are familiar with that. But they have been in the area for many years, and now we're seeing them kind of as like a hunter's guild or something like that.
These are the founders of this place.
Yeah, one of the earliest settlers or people to explore the area.
All right. Jake, you want to draw a card?
King of Spades.
All right. Yours is two parts. You have one question or another question. If there are multiple people who live here, what are they divided on? What are the points of contention that are fought over? Or if there are not multiple people, what resources do the plants, animals, or visitors to our place vie for?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, we've already kind of established that there are multiple races. Could you read the first part to me again?
If there are multiple people who live here, what are they divided on? What are the points of contention that are fought over?
Anywhere you go, you'd have conflicts over who's basically in charge with any kind of mixture of races, and anyway, you have some form of infighting between who's essentially going to be the, I guess, lords or kings or queens of the area. So you could essentially probably there would have to have been some kind of incident to spark someone to essentially take charge more so, probably.
Yeah, I can imagine, you separate from the herd of your main city as an expedition, and then you're settling in somewhere. Then it's like, okay, well, now we're here. Who's going to run the show? And then everyone thinks they're in charge, and that can get out of control really fast.
Yeah.
Is there something that they're trying to control in particular?
If we're kind of in the crater, I would probably give it to the dwarves, because they're probably the minerals and mining in that area would probably be a big draw, and dwarves are typically the minerals and mining individuals. They'd probably use that to their advantage to, I guess, build a stronghold.
All right, well, it's not letting me draw a card.
You want me to draw for you?
Sure.
All
That
right.
was going to be kind of my resolution.
All right. Going from the faces, one card. You received the Jack of Spades.
What are the threats to this place? Are these threats to the materiality of the place or the people that live in it? I like the idea that, this expedition was kind of like less about exploration and more about survival. There's something happening outside of our hole in the mountain that we're living in that this was a necessity to come and explore. And so I would say whatever is beyond the mountain ranges that surrounds us pretty much entirely, even though it's a large space that we're living in, that there is something out there that is problematic for people. So part of this is just that
Like an empire that wants our resources. Like we have the most fertile farmland in the area. So we have an adjacent kingdom that just wants our dirt.
no, I think they're trying to escape something dangerous.
Okay. And we're just the lowest path between the mountains for them to get through.
It could be something that the height is the advantage because they are inside a mountain, a volcano that's, miles across, 10, 20 miles across. It's round, it's flat. Because it's elevated, it kind of provides them shelter from whatever it is they're running from. What that is specifically, I don't know at the moment.
Are we thinking the hazard that they are running from could be the environment or a particular kind of creature or creatures?
It could be anything magical in nature. It could be political in nature. It could be the dirt's going bad. I mean, like any number of reasons why they have to elevate themselves. And how the elevation plays into it, I don't know for sure. But I like the idea that this is more survival based movement and a settlement establishment versus exploration for the sake of expanding and conquering.
So is there a threat to us that they're just encroaching on our way of life?
Below the mountains, yes, it's still a high threat. And the concern might be that it's still there.
They did encroach on our way of life, and that's why we moved there.
So currently there's like the perimeter is our shelter, but when you have a threat of any particular matter, it always looms in the background that it could potentially still get to you. So that's kind of the thing that everyone's worried about.
Gotcha.
All right, Matthew, you're up.
I will draw a card. King of Diamonds.
Who or what is in power here? Is it a ruler, an apex predator, a series of laws that govern society, the weather?
I feel like for our particular locale and the way that it's kind of developing, I feel like it would best suit us to have more of a set of guiding principles rather than an overarching ruler or leader, right? Like something, something a little bit more on the honor and barter system.
Is there a body that would enforce any of that if somebody isn't playing by the rules?
I feel like since we've established a hunters guild, then the logical step is to do some sort of policing guild. Maybe like I kind of like the idea of it being on a volunteer basis, like something not authoritarian, but
Something like, you have to produce and like you there are rules against being lackadaisical or lazy or not producing well enough. And so you have like trade commission police to make sure everyone's pulling their weight.
Yeah, potentially. I like that. Or else you get ran out of the crater. Be a productive member of society or leave. Yeah, I like that. That seems like a nice way for a farming, hunting, gatherer community to function.
Uh,
Especially a secluded one.
Yeah, where survival is important. Everyone needs to be doing something. Child labor for days. Got to start
Yeah,
them
man,
young.
kids can work. Yeah. 6 years old, hand them a shovel. That's how I grew up.
All right, Shiloh.
Queen of Clubs.
What was the greatest moment in this place's history? An innovation, a discovery, a revolution, a new sapling, the emergence of a cycle of cicadas?
It was the discovery that, so we had the hunter-gatherers, like they were hunting the creatures that were here, just kind of gathering the thing. But then they found that the soil from this possibly, hopefully extinct volcano crater has like really rich minerals in it. Like they didn't know it was minerals at the time. It was really good for growing crops and plants. Like the plants that grew in this specific area where a lot of these farms are now located at are like, they produce more, they last longer, they're healthier than plants in other areas. And because of this, they've been able to have other kind of more, I don't want to say like more discoveries, but they've been able to like graft different ones together and make new, hardier varieties of, say the berry bushes or, apple trees, that kind of stuff.
Now, is it that it grows better or that it grows beyond expectation? So, like, we're up in the mountains and so it's elevated. And so no one went into this thinking things would grow well and it grows just as well as you would expect in ideal conditions, or it grows the best stuff and it's bigger and better and more and abundant and hardier and like all of that jazz.
It's definitely more than they expected, but yes, it is better than quote unquote average, what is normal. So like say like their tomatoes are bigger, the berry bushes produce 10 times the amount that berry bushes off of the crater do.
Is the normal plant life that we run into in this area, to kind of caveat on this, is it unusually large, or like is it just that we noticed the crops because we brought them, or is everything here just kind of larger than life?
Everything is a little bit larger, and that's why the hunter-gatherers kind of, why else would you go and be like, oh yeah, we're going to explore this mountain and stay here if you didn't see this mass amount of resources? Like the berry, like I keep going, berry bushes are just in my head right now, but berry bushes are very easy food and they supply a lot of it. And because there's a lot of that, there's a lot more grazing animals that they could hunt for the furs, for the meat, that kind of stuff. So that's, I don't know if it probably took them a while to make that connection that, hey, we could, maybe some new people came in and brought corn seeds or brought some sheep with them and kind of continued to grow their resources that way.
I mean, that's why berry bushes are in every video game, and that's where you get your food from, just because they're just
Exactly.
awesome.
Dude, they're in Stardew Valley even, like only in the spring though for a few days.
Survival 101.
All right, Alec, we're on the next one.
Oh, back to me. All right. Let's see. King of Clubs.
If there are inhabitants, what are the visions for the future that they hold? Is it a long view or a short one?
There are inhabitants. We've already talked about that. Let's see here. We've talked about farming. We've talked about.
They're running from something. They've established themselves to live here. They now have a place. What does the future look like?
Well, they need to protect that future. So they need to come up with ways to fortify and survey, make sure that their current area is going to be enough. So I think the initial one, I'll go with short. The initial focus would definitely be on fortification. If they're being encroached on by other areas and putting their limited resources, given the donut they're in, trying to strain that, they're going to need to work on fortification and try to protect that. So I think they're going to need to have a group of tradesmen and people in that field to kind of come up with ways to build up walls and make sure they've got a scout system, make sure that people are in the know. So I think securing what they have would be a focus in a short term.
Does that come about by like a military group being created, or more like a neighborhood watch where pretty much everyone's kind of participating?
I mean, if you see something, say something, right? So I think it would kind of be a shared task by everyone, but there's going to be, I wouldn't go so far as to say a military, but I think that in between space of like a military and like a mercenaries guild, but like somewhere in between, like a
Militia.
militia would be the perfect one. So kind of a volunteer based, like we talked about earlier, militia to you kind of keep everything on the up and up and keep things secure in the immediate. So their best and most skilled swordsmen, archers, stuff like that would be first on the list to be called upon, and all of that.
So is this like roving groups of militiamen that patrol the crater rim?
I think that would be included. Yeah. So you're going to have your initial kind of like, just let's get this under protection, and then we'll have people kind of go out and just kind of check the spots that are kind of branch out and check up. And that they could scout, but scouts, however they want to manage it. But yeah.
So sorry to go backwards 7 cards, but just for the sake of visualization, can we establish a little bit more about this location? Because we have a crater in a mountain range. How many sides need to be protected? Is there just one way in? Are we concerned about a third of the crater rim, or are we concerned about all of it, half of it? And then, like, what is it? Natural fortifications and just patrols, or do we need towers and like guard posts and such at many or one place?
I imagine we probably have like 1 or 2 ways that are like the easy ways in, where there's kind of like a mudslide or a rock slide took place, and it kind of created this opening that is the way we came in originally. I imagine because we're surrounded by mountains all side that the walls are kind of natural in their own right, but if we're worried about something, we're probably still checking and spending more time on the avenues of approach, whatever those may be, or even like seeing if there's things that we don't know, mapping out how everything looks to make sure, okay, there's a cave system here that actually goes down that we just found that's 20 miles north.
How big are we thinking this crater is, or this area that we're inhabiting? Has that been established?
So I have a couple of thoughts on this. It's gone from like 80 miles to 20.
Like 30 to 50 square miles in total, so significantly large.
Yeah, I like that. In the middle. Yeah, that makes a little more sense. Because we want it to be big enough that like it can support a population, but like it needs to be big enough that there are many forms of flora and fauna, like Shiloh said, right? Like it needs to be big enough to support a diverse ecosystem, but also small enough to be,
What population size are we thinking?
Great question.
Sensible.
That's something that we may not know just yet, because time may change that, because we might jump forward 4,000 years and then it's like, well, what does it look like now?
Population density at this point where we have established now? Because I feel like we are within a decade of founding, right? Like early, we haven't really established this, but it's enough time for people to have come and established farms. So I'm like a couple hundred to begin with. Like, is that kind of like, what are we thinking? 40? 400? Somewhere in the middle?
Well, because I posed the initial like hunter people then turning into a guild kind of thing. I'd say that would probably be over 50 years. Why not? I'd say like 1,000 population for this initial jump into it.
Yeah, because remember, we're going to be traveling through
Yeah.
time, possibly a millennia.
Yeah.
So this is not necessarily our current day of when our characters are.
Yeah. Just the initial
Yeah.
founding. Okay. So you're saying within 5 decades, 1,000 people.
Sure, that sounds possible.
Yeah, no, I've never colonized a new place, but yeah.
The initial population, or the initial team might have been 50 to 100, and then they send people back and it's like, all right, start sending people and supplies, and they're slow rolling. It could be difficult to get there.
Hopefully.
It is in the middle of
I
a
feel like
mountain
it should
crater.
be
So.
exceptionally difficult to get here.
Almost as bad as the Oregon Trail.
All right,
Yeah.
Jake, such a good game. Let's draw the next one.
All right.
Fun fact, I've got a great grandfather who wrote a biography who talked about basically taking that trail.
That's awesome.
Which was insane. Was it the Jack of Hearts?
Jack of Hearts.
Who lives here? What is an average person like in this place? What do they look like? What do they wear?
All right. Well, established that it's kind of up north, so they're probably a little bit
I'm
more.
going to interrupt you because there's an or. There's an or. I missed it.
Oh, Another
Yep.
ore.
Yeah, you've got both of them, and there's only two. Describe the flora and fauna.
Okay.
What is the landscape like? What animals and plants call it home?
Okay. Well, I'm probably gonna stick with that first one. So we kind of went over the flora and fauna, kind of already kind of touched on those. I mean, the people here would have to be rather hardy individuals to live here because I imagine it's not the easiest place to live. Probably using initially a lot of furs and heavier clothing. So you probably get these almost in a sense like mountain, like how we would see like mountain men, big kind of burly individuals, and
They sent the strong ones first.
And the hairy ones.
yeah, more it gets more warm. So yeah, probably a little bit more your larger individuals initially.
I wonder if that and this place's affinity for growing things big will create bigger people in a few generations or millennia.
That's interesting to find out. We could at some point venture back down below the mountain range and be like, everyone over 100 generations have turned into giants,
They're
and
just
we just
tiny.
don't know
We
it.
didn't never noticed.
This is the origin story of the giants.
All right, can you draw another card? Because I cannot.
You received the Jack of Diamonds.
What is this place named or called? Who named it, and for what reason? I hate it when they ask for names. Gotta come up with something off the dome, and I don't have anything.
I don't envy
Pick
you.
a thing that you
at
can
all.
see in front of you and add ION.
This land. It is this land.
I'm gonna ironically go with what I just said. They call it the dome, which is interesting because there's no cover, but it is their
Well, and
source
I
of
guess
protection.
it could be dome-like, like it, because it has mountains, or at least things that look like mountains surrounding it. So they could curve in a little bit. So it kind of makes a
Right.
dome-like, not fully covered, obviously, but
And it's naturally an upside down dome.
There you go.
And I'm gonna say the person that named it was probably we're gonna continue this theme. It happened by accident where, they were walking in at the initial, they've just peeked over, and the guy up front trips and like bashes his head on something. And he starts swearing about hitting his head in his own language, but the only thing anyone is able to pick out is dome. And it just kind of stuck.
Got domed at the dome.
Perfect.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
All right. Jake, you're up.
Matthew.
Nope, sorry. Matthew.
I think
I know what I'm doing.
Queen of Diamonds. After all that work to put us in alphabetical order.
I'm glad you do because I'm lost.
What is valued in this place? What is it known to have in excess?
I would say that they have like food and resources in abundance. So probably things of value would be like artifacts from the past, things that came with them initially, and anything that they can get from the very rare trader that might happen near them. Like things from the outside world, I feel like would be valuable in such a closed community that, is basically paradise.
And you said that the nature is what's in excess.
Like resources and resources and plants and fruits and vegetables are all large and in abundance. So yeah, the kind of worthless, right? Like what's a bushel of corn worth when everyone's got 10 bushels of corn? But that trinket from, like back in the day, that's cool.
It's like we only have a couple left. Shiloh.
all right. It's got the Queen of Spades.
What was the greatest tragedy in this place's past? How is it remembered?
Everything sounds so hunky-dory lately. I gotta ruin it. There was an expedition that went to the side of the crater that they don't typically go to. Like that's harder to access from the outside world. Say the mountain range over there just continues to be a mountain range or whatever. And so they're like, hey, let's go check that out. Maybe there's different resources over there. And they found a cave system, but only one person from that expedition came back. And they told tales of like horrible creatures. Like we already kind of talked about that maybe possibly the creatures here are bigger than normal due to, the abundant plant life and stuff. But these were like larger than that. They were more like the prey type that lived in this cave system or cave systems that they were exploring in. And so since that day, they don't like that side of the crater. Nobody goes to explores those cave systems. They're completely off limits. And how it's remembered, it's kind of like a folk tale at this point. Like it happened fairly early on. So some of the older members of the society definitely remember it with fear and with caution. But the younger generation, it's told to them almost as bedtime stories. Like, oh, if you don't eat your vegetables, the giant man-eating spider from the caves are going to come and eat you, or stuff like that. So there is a part of seriousness to it that they do not go over there anymore. But there's also some of it has faded into folklore.
So how many died and where is it located? Like what direction?
It is northeast, and we'll say 9 died. 10 went on the expedition and 1 came back.
So we came in from the southwest. That's where like mudslide.
Like the southeast.
Yeah. Okay. Do the giant man-eating spiders ever actually come if children don't eat their vegetables or something? Or?
No.
Everyone makes sure to produce.
Yeah.
They now make offerings at the entrance of the cave.
Yeah. Do we like appease these horrible
I mean, there
monsters?
might be some groups that do view that, like some have kind of viewed those as, oh, this is a curse from the gods, or there are probably definitely more folksy, I use that term loosely, folksy people that do kind of view that as we need to appease these creatures or they will come out of the caves and eat us.
Unbeknownst to everyone else, the Hunters Guild has been like making offerings to the cave monsters since the start.
Oh, someone's definitely going to be
for sure.
worshiping them. Yeah,
It's my
hero.
that's going to happen. All right, Alec, draw the next one. We should have only 1 or 2 left.
We are looking at King of Hearts.
What stories are told in or about this place? Does it have legends or myths? Does it
Ooh.
have religion
The myth of
or a cult?
So the folklore has some have turned it from a bedtime story to stories of evil creatures and monsters that live beneath. Some you'll get a range of how many legs it has, ranging from none to 8, maybe even up to 10 or 12 gargantuan creatures that live just beneath the surface of this cave.
Has it moved from like, are we kind of at that moment in time where enough people weren't around to really remember it?
Oh, for sure.
So that it's starting to feel like a legend, like, yeah, that didn't really happen. And like, no one really knows for sure.
Anybody that would have been alive when whatever happened have since passed. So now nobody alive has any firsthand knowledge. So we're a couple, I'd say, like how long are generations? Yeah,
30 years.
a couple. Yeah, we're
Like 50.
Just if you want to say a couple generations, if the numbers don't add up, we have the power to make them work.
we're like 3 generations past that initial inciting event, and now it's the stories range the gambit around that. So let me look at that again. So from that, stories are told about like campfire ghost stories. If we're in a volcano, there might be some volcanic activity, things rumbling, weird noises that shake some things. The stories have been told that it might be the creature beneath trying to dig his way out. So you get those kinds of stories. I'd say the most common type of creature, or the most popular type of creature, I'm going to say is like a large serpentine beast. But it ranges, but that's the one that's the most commonly told. A large like snake, serpent, something like that is living beneath, but nobody really knows.
All right, Jake, you want to grab the next one? You might have the last.
Here, might as well. Jack of clubs.
What was this place in the past? How long ago was that?
Place in the past? Like the land itself?
Sure.
I mean, I'd say it was given the size of the volcano, essentially, it's you could almost say like the continent was kind of created like how the Hawaiian Islands are created. The volcano erupts and it goes into the water, cools off, creates more land, erupts again, more land is just created. It's just
So this is
building itself
like the
more and more
origin
up,
point
up.
of our specific continent, like the birthplace of our continent.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Considering how high we are, it had to be quite a long time ago.
I'm-
I don't know.
Maybe it was just a really big eruption, a one and done.
Yeah, that's true too. A one and done. No, I give it at least a couple hundred years, maybe like about 1 or 200 years as like grow it more.
Could that big eruption be the thing that exacerbated the surrounding area that caused people to try and find something else?
Yeah, run from the ash.
An eruption on that size to create the
Okay,
island
that
would
is true.
basically kill everything living on it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it being that soon would mean that like it erupted and then like everyone fled to colonize this new land very quickly.
One really smart guy was like, run
Yeah.
towards the ash. It's all going that way.
Maybe it wasn't a volcano, but that could be a myth. We think it was.
I was going to posit that. In lieu of a volcano,
Yeah.
could it be a meteor impact crater? Like, or are we a caldera?
Maybe something was hatching.
Ew, giant monster.
or maybe something did hatch.
We're all living on like the molted shell of a creature.
That's why the soil's so calcium rich.
And all our plants are just like mold and bacteria and stuff.
Yeah.
Turns out we're tiny.
I don't like that.
We're just Horton's pets.
Are there any more cards to draw? I think that should be it.
That was number 12.
All right. So we have our starting point. This is just the starting point. Now we get to figure out where it goes from here. So during our 4 cycles of gameplay, we're going to draw cards from the numerical pile, which is ace through 10. Each card is associated with a set of questions, which are answered in order. For example, the first time a player draws an ace of any suit, they would answer the first question listed under the aces. Second time an ace is drawn, you answer the second question. So you run through them in order. Read the questions out loud, narrate your answers to the group, then discard the card in the discard pile. That doesn't matter. The group may ask follow-up questions. The player may also discard the card before addressing the question and enter a focused situation, choosing to tell a story, throw a party, discover something, see an omen, leave the frame, or move on, skipping their turn. These focus situations allow us to skip certain questions instead of spending more time on a single moment. Choosing to enter a focus situation still counts as the nth instance of a card. So if it's the second time we draw an ace and you're like, I don't want to answer this question, we'll do a focus situation. We still mark off the second ace question and move on to the third when it's drawn next. If the 10 is drawn, the cycle ends, moving us forward in time. After every cycle, when we draw a 10, our thing's going to be a 2d6. The first one's going to be the amount of time or the type of time, days, weeks, years. And then the second number will be how long? 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 millennia. You may choose to go forward or backward in time. So we could go forward a whole bunch and then back and then forward. Could be fun. Go from there. When we reconvene, we collectively answer the following questions. Do our characters' civilizations still live here? What does the place physically look like now? Does the place still use the same name? And when the fourth 10 is drawn, the game is over, no matter the number of cards left in the pile or the stories that are in motion. And then we have some follow-up stuff at the end. So we established we're going to do the 2d6 for our time plot. We have our deck in place. Alec, let's see who.
Yeah, that would be you.
I think we'll just continue the order, and I think that makes me. So I don't know if it's gonna let me draw.
6 of
Hey,
hearts.
it did. 6 of hearts. Let me reorganize my sheets because I have all of these papers out that I. Okay. What is the most horrible thing in or about our place? It's cold. Like it's uncomfortably cold. We are up there, highly elevated. Mentally, physically, we're elevated. So it's bitter. The summers don't last long enough and winter seems to stretch forever. So it is as tropical as it may look, it is still rather cold.
So the stuff still grows. It's just the temperature is brought down. Got it.
Uncomfortable. All right, Matthew.
Okay. Numbers. 8 of diamonds.
What does success look like in our place? What do the inhabitants want?
I feel like success is, what's the right word to use? Like complacency, right? Like success is just making sure that your crops are harvested or your job is done and like playing catch with your kids. It's a really idyllic community we've developed here. So like I feel like success would just be like just continuing to survive the way that they're surviving.
Like smoothly?
Yeah, just everything just just the continuation of the way things are. Like that seems like the ultimate success in that scenario would just be to continue continuing. And as long as you're doing that, like doing your job, harvesting your crops, tending your fields or your game or whatever your position inside this community is, like just doing a good job at that is the best you could ask for. So I don't feel like we really have a community where like, like ambition is really rewarded, right? Like what like that just wouldn't fly in this community. Like as a farmer, how do you be more ambitious? Like you a larger farm, like more crops, like you grow the most crops. Like no, everyone else with land isn't going to let that slide. So like just doing your thing. Thoughts? Anyone else
right.
get input on that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's good.
All
Shiloh,
right.
Mm.
Ace of diamonds.
what are the plants like in our
Huge.
place? The rocks, the soil.
I feel like we already covered this.
Just to remind everyone, you can skip this and do the
Maybe look
focus
at those focus
situation.
situations.
I would also recommend everyone pull up the tens page because we can pick those at random, and there's like 7 questions, and I don't want to read
Yeah.
all of them every time we roll a 10. And whoever pulls a 10 gets to pick the question.
I
so
would
have that on
like
hand.
to leave the frame. So just for a second, the window widens and we're able to see a little bit more of our world because we've kind of talked about a little bit. So I get go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna read off what leaving the frame is for explanation's sake. Just for a second, the window widens. Weird. It's almost like you just said that. And we are able to see a little bit more of our world. Man,
It's like an
it's
echo.
almost like you said that. You may ask, what is the mountain like to the north of our house? Are there massing armies on the sea? What type of dogs do the neighbors have? Or anything else you wish to know? You get one question, and the table collectively answers. Then the world snaps back.
Oh, now I got to think of a question.
I just want to make sure that we were
No, you're good.
following the rules mostly. I know it was easy to be like, all right, here's what's going to happen.
I was getting into GM mode for a second. I apologize.
That's all right. You can still ask the question that gets you that answer, although everyone else gets to participate.
So I would like to know, how do the inhabitants that don't live in the crater, the ones that live either close to the crater or further away, what do they think of the people who live in the dome?
Do you want to go first?
Okay.
Go last?
Go first.
I can go first. I mean, I think it's a mixed bag, honestly. Like some of the traders are like, wow, we could sell them. Like, look, they are desperate for these stupid trinkets that we have. But then you have other people who view them with great suspicion because they are a closed off community. They are very guarded about who they let in. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
I feel like so we've established that this place is pretty secluded. Like I feel like we would almost be mythical to surrounding areas, right? Like to the point where like people doubt the stories of the roving traders that show up with the giant carrots, right? And they're like, nah, that's crazy. There's not a crater full of giant animals and vegetables. Like, shut up. Like, so I feel like we'd be almost, I mean, just mythical. Yeah, like this as we've developed this, it reminds me a lot of like Brigadoon, if anyone is familiar. So okay, it's a mythical place that disappears in the fog, but still, I don't know, just
I know
mythical place.
Schmigadoon. I've been getting 2 thoughts or the things that are this has been reminding me of. One, after so many years and years and generations, you could see the fairy tale of Jack and the Beanstalk or Giants in the Clouds with these crops that are so big. Giants are an easy thing to think of. So I could see that type of story being told by surrounding areas. But I also, with how idealistic we've made it, I also get vibes of, and I apologize for people that know Disney better than I do, was it Raya the Last Dragon? The people in the center, everybody thought they were better because they thought they had magic and all this other stuff because they just didn't know. And with how little is known about these people up on this mountain, and seeing all these weird crops come through and maybe seemingly strange stories come through, it just seems like they are, like you said, like mystical, or just so otherworldly. I'm getting vibes like that for sure.
Now, we talked about this being kind of like a shelter versus an exploration where they are running from something dangerous. What if it's that the danger hasn't happened yet, and that there was a prophecy or a foretelling that in the future something was going to go catastrophically wrong, and unless you were away and protected, you were in trouble. And so like the people that believed, or this group, went and did this thing. So everyone else is still kind of going about their lives, and that kind of plays into this whole disconnect between that group and everyone else, because they're like, yeah, I guess there's people in the mountains.
I
They're
like
kind of
that.
weird. They don't let a lot of people in. Don't really understand why they're up there.
Pain in the butt
It's
to get there.
super
I like
shitty and
that.
cold. Like,
I like that too. I like the idea,
Yeah.
because we're basically in a giant caldera. Like the prophecy of something horrible is gonna happen. We freaking ran to ground zero.
And that could explain some of the weird stories that have come through, or like the
Oh, no.
generational thing of like, now it's like we don't really know why they went up there. We think it was blah blah blah, but they're just kind of weird and secluded, and we kind of just like write them off after so many years.
our society may have lost it as well.
Yeah, yeah,
We don't know why we're here.
yeah, for sure.
Jake, what's your thoughts on how we're perceived?
I mean, that kind of hit on the head. I almost kind of think people think of us as like almost there but not there, and it's just like the random stuff that pops up, and you go, it's kind of like most people go, what, you got that from where? And they go from Traveler who went up to the top of the mountain. He brought it back down. They're like, no, you used some kind of magic to. It's almost like we're not believed that we're here. To almost like saying the people that do know that we're here, like it's like contradicting
and it's
stories.
probably
We are almost a folklore ourselves.
yeah, and it's probably a difference of the people that live like at the base of the mountain versus the people that live, say, like an hour down the road.
Yes.
The rare trader that comes through wouldn't want to tell everyone how to get to us. We're a small enough community that he wouldn't want other people to inundate us with their wares, right? So even the people that know where we are would be incentivized not to tell people where we are.
Well, see, here's how you could play that too. The base of the mountain could be like really inhospitable for life. So there may not be a lot of large villages or crops or anything growing near the mountain, only just like really small things. So the only people that are close enough to really have the experience are in small numbers, because the base of the mountain is kind of a shitty place to live. So more people have to travel further
The
to
main
figure
entrance
it
to
out.
the monster caves are at the base of the mountain.
All right. That was a good
Yeah,
good
that
little
was. I
peek
like that you
outside.
did that, Shadow. That was a good thing to establish, zoom out on.
Yeah.
All right. Alec, you're up.
Oh, nice. All right. Oh, I drew from the wrong place. Hold on.
All right. What is the
4 of
primary
diamonds.
building or natural material of our place?
And we're back in the crater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say it's not wood. I want to go with not a wooden type thing. We have a lot of like flora, like a lot of green, but not many trees or anything. So I'm gonna go with the fantasy version of like concrete, or like clay or something. Something stone, mixing stone with like some like ground up stone with water, and kind of using that to construct some things, construct some of these buildings.
Grounded
So
Fantasy Crete.
yeah, fantasy Crete. So I think from that you can put a limit on building sizes. So at most you're going to get 2 stories, but it usually is like not for living upstairs. It'd be like storage and other stuff like that. So your buildings tend to stay short and go out rather than up. So that's, I'm going to say, however we want to call, like a fantasy concrete.
Yeah.
Ground up stone.
There would be a lot of volcanic ash in our area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Maybe some magic wielders or some alchemists figured out a way to make it a little bit more strong and stable for those that couldn't. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but like trying to make something like a fantasy concrete versus like actually quarrying out stone. Which one's more difficult, or which one sounds more fun? I kind of like the idea of
Well, and
ground up stuff and trying to make like a paste.
it might have changed too. Like maybe they started off just quarrying because that was easier almost. Like, hey, we just
Mhm.
made some little caves of our own and then
Yeah.
went on from there.
Someone, they were doing their quarry and grabbing stone, and then someone falls like face first into a pile of dust and gets a whole bunch in their mouth, and then like it solidifies.
Yeah. Ooh, I like
And they're
that.
like, well, this is a problem for this person, but we just learned something really
Jeremy,
important.
I'm going to point out that this is the second origin story you've started with a person falling on their face.
It's handy. Well, my first thought was that they just randomly eat it, but that doesn't
No,
make as
that's
much
handy.
sense. Is this ash edible?
Only one way to
When
find
you're
out.
surrounded by
Y'all need to look out for tripping hazards. That's what you really need to take away from this. All right, Jake, roll that beautiful bean footage
All right.
in selecting a card.
All right, good enough faces. Number card.
Ooh.
Ooh, a 10.
10 of hearts.
All right, so
Great. We go with the other ones. Oh, we're moving through time.
yes, we
Good
are.
question, I think.
Yeah. Have your choice.
All right, so go ahead and roll a d6.
1.
A 1. Days. We're going to advance in some days. Now roll another one to figure out how many days we're going to advance.
6.
We're moving forward 6 days in time.
Not even a week.
You get to go forward or backward in time. Let's see here.
We'll kick the ball down the road an inch or two.
So feel free to pick your question from the list, read it out loud, and then
There you go. I guess we can use this one. As a day of resting in the knowledge of a secure future, what is taken as a given, and how are the inhabitants of our place spend a lazy day? I guess basically how do they spend it? Almost essentially how do they spend a day off? So I imagine like how kind of what Matthew said, kind of like playing with their kids and spending time with families, and growing that
Personal happiness.
personal happiness, making memories.
is it a day of no work?
Yes, there's actually one, I would say almost, one day out of the week where it's intended to be spent with the family, whether it be the whole family from grandma to baby.
Is this like a once a week thing, or is it just once a period of time after the harvest? Like, is there a specific cue to have this day of rest? I can't imagine, based on our circumstances, that there are frequent occurrences of it.
It probably would happen after like a harvest. That it's just one day, I guess out of the year that's taken as everything's been harvested, everything's been kind of done.
So would that make it more
can
of
breathe
like
for
a
a moment.
communal day off,
Right.
where it's not just playing, catch with your kid, but playing, 500 with all the kids? Yeah.
Catch with all the kids.
Your designated catcher today.
I mean, I'd say that they're probably. It depends on I guess the family. I would say some family. There are like gatherings, but some people will choose to spend it in their own homes
Some people are
or in their own
loners.
spaces. Maybe people who aren't as familiar, or maybe possibly even a way for, I guess, essentially kids to meet, or the younger generations to meet, and start their own relationships.
Yeah, like that.
It's kind of like
And this
like
place is big
courting.
enough that it would be a pain in the butt. I can see myself not wanting to go to the party if it's 80 miles away and I have to walk there. Oh yeah, they can celebrate. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna stay here.
Like I say, it could, and I mean, it's also used to meet future
Or
wives or
yeah.
husbands.
One day a year to socialize.
Like, yeah.
That's
all you need.
Slave life.
all you
I don't
need.
know
life.
if we'll touch on that.
Keep
But how
keep
do
it
we
in the
get
family.
new blood? Like, how do
I mean, we kind of say that there have been people that have come in, like maybe a trader falls in love and decides to stay, or, I think it's not a steady stream of like new people, but I think there are,
just enough to not?
and
There's trade lines,
Yeah,
so
because
in import export,
it's like a
people that come through.
kingdom size thing, right? So you have distant little pocket communities and stuff too.
All right, so we just had our day off. It was awesome. 6 days later. Does our civilization
so.
still live here? If not, who lives here now? Does anyone?
Nope, it's all gone.
That one day just ruined us.
The
That was a
serpent
wild
came
party.
up.
All right, I'm going home.
We partied way too hard. What does the place physically look like now? Has anything visually changed? How does it smell now? How does it
I mean,
feel here?
I think it would have changed a little bit because, like, not
So it's like
drastically, but since we did kind of say it was the end of the harvest, you probably do have more of that, like, this is the changing of the seasons kind of thing. It's like what currently happening outside my window is the corn's being torn down and stuff.
So to step back for like just a brief second, since we're talking about like a couple days later, potentially after a celebration, or something like that, what's that typically look like? Are we talking, community wide, whoever wants to join, big like a harvest festival kind of thing? So lots of food and all that, like drinking and merriment. Then a couple of days later, so they're still cleaning it up, and all that.
Also, because if they've just harvested, right, like shortly after this party, the entire community needs to go into like mass production canning mode, right? So
Canning, prepping,
like,
all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
presumably this will be sometime before winter when everyone just hermits down, right? So I feel like it would be a mad dash to, get your hibernate on.
Different guilds are kind of touching in, so you had like farming and all that. Now you got to do like the preservation and canning, like you said. So the other craftsmen and other professions are starting to ramp up as well, and kind of shifting that workload.
I'm going to say also that, like, for a majority of the farmlands, that one of the ways that they prep for next season is to burn everything. They torch all the fields after everything's harvested. That could be part of the celebration
would they
too.
want to do that in the fall, or would they wait till spring? And I know that around here they do a lot of burning in the spring, because in the fall you have everything is so dry. Typically, you create forest fires and just uncontrolled blazes. But since they're in a more temperate, maybe the wind's not as bad because they have mountains or something.
No trees.
Weird. Where did
I
these
feel
mountains
like
come
at the
from?
end, like we should burn in the fall. It's part like the fire celebration.
Just
Yeah.
before winter.
Or if it's so cold, can they save it through winter and gather some of that up and use
Probably.
as fire
Kindling
material?
and stuff.
Since there is a lack of wood and trees, one, wood could be one of their imports, and two, how do they heat their homes and stuff like that? They can take some of this excess plant life that's dried and yuck. They can use that to use as a fire material, fire source for heating.
I like the idea of immolating the entire what are we calling it, a crater or a caldera?
And because like
or
the
what is the word? Crater?
Crater.
What would be really, really interesting is like we have fantasy
Yeah.
Crete houses. Like, what if they just set up fires around the outside of the house to heat it?
I like that.
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I was thinking just set the entire valley on
Yeah.
fire, and because it's all like volcano Crete. Worst case scenario, your house gets harder, and everyone just parties on the roof while everything burns around them.
Oh my lord, that's
All right. Does this place still use the same name? If not, what is it called now? And who
Crazy.
calls it that? So it's
Same.
the dome.
Yeah.
the dome.
It's now the fire dome.
Fire dome.
All right, who drew that? Jake. So I'm going to draw the next one. Numbers. The 5 of hearts. What are the stars like in our place? The sky, the weather. So because we are so elevated, we don't get a lot of weather. We catch a lot of wind, but clouds kind of go around us for the most part. We will get stuff that forms kind of within our walls. A lot of fog. It is foggy on a regular basis, but it's also cold, in part because of the elevation, but also because we often don't have cloud cover to help insulate. And as a result, there are a lot of stars to see. It is, not quite disco ball at night, but there is enough starlight. I'm going to say that we are moonless, but there is enough starlight to see at night.
Planet? There's
As
no
if
moon
it was
on the planet we're on.
Yes, no moon. But if you imagine like how bright it is on like a full moon, That's kind of the amount of light that is given off by
So
the
like
stars.
more than 5,000 stars. Yeah.
Oh, easily.
Fun fact.
There's not a lot to do around here, so people try to count. It's a competition to see who is most accurate.
Astronomy a big part of our culture then because of that?
I think star counting right now is just a pastime. There's probably room for astronomy, but later question.
Yes.
Maybe next millennia.
All right, Matthew, you're up.
Cards. Yeah.
In the next 6 days.
Numbers. 3 of diamonds.
What do people listen to and perform here? What is considered the folk art?
I would say throat singing and gourd art.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Lord.
can agree with that.
Love it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's my final answer. Like Gregorian throat chanting, because like, you know, the acoustics of our crater is just outstanding for such a thing. And yeah,
Everyone's learned to talk really quietly because your voice carries. Like you could shout from one side and hear someone on the other side, so everyone's learned to be like super quiet to make sure that the conversation's not
Yeah.
overheard.
yeah.
Oh man.
All right, Shiloh.
Oh, beans.
I love how certain like aspects that randomly come up actually correlate with the character's own tendencies. 'Cause that's exactly how the character I created talks. Is very quiet.
9 of clubs.
What do people eat and drink here? What is considered traditional?
They eat a lot of fruits and veggies and some meat. I feel like the fruits and vegetables are like the bulk of their diet at this point, because now that they've settled down and stuff, hunting isn't viewed quite as a necessity. And since there's so much of abundance with the crops, they do have mutton, like sheep. They might have some cows, but I feel like cows would probably take up too much space, like harvestable land space.
Although if there's abundance in growth, feeding them and taking care of them may be less
Yeah,
problematic.
you still have to have space for them though, and
It's just
cows
veal.
are big animals.
Yeah, we just squeeze them in really.
And they get even bigger with the food
so
they
I think
eat.
I think hunting is probably their main source of meat. They're hunting giant elk and deer. My mind went blank on anything else that lives in the wild.
How giant?
Like the size of moose. So like, you know how white-tailed deer is typically, oh, that's cute, but think of a white-tailed deer the size of a moose. That'd be terrifying.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, but that's cool to think about.
An elk on that scale is crazy.
Yeah, so they probably also hunt quote unquote smaller animals. So like ground squirrels or, things, but those are like the size of cats. Like, these are
Medium-sized
animals.
dog rabbits.
What's a
Yeah.
traditional dish?
What is a traditional dish?
Stew.
Did you say stew?
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but I was trying to put a spin on it. I was trying to think.
Fantasy spin on it.
Well, not necessarily fantasy, just kind of. I think their stew.
More fun.
Since they live in a cold environment, it can be difficult to keep hot foods hot. So they have. It sounds awful, but it's like a rabbit stew or some kind of meat-based stew, whatever they have at that point, with lots of vegetables and potatoes and stuff. But it's like a gazpacho, so it's served cold. Like you cook it and then you let it chill and you serve it cold.
Gelatinous stew.
My favorite.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, Alec.
Ooh.
You mean a Jello?
All right. Oh, where'd my cursor go? Here it is. Alrighty.
Spade.
That is the 2 of spades.
Name a monument, marker, statue, or other physicalized memory that exists in our place. What does it mark?
Ooh, I'm trying to decide what part I want to do. On the northernmost wall of this crater, there's a section of stone which is unnaturally smooth and worked, and no one knows where it had come from. It's been there since the beginning of the time people have lived through here. So there's a section of worked stone that seems out of place for the current inhabitants of this crater.
What's the name?
I don't have
What
a
is,
good name.
you said worked stone. Is it just a smooth plane, or is it
Like a channel of work stone. No roof,
okay.
but just that. At the ends of it, it's crumbled and it looks like it's ancient. in some capacity, just to give
Like
it some
20
age. It
feet
looks
deep inside of
very,
it.
very old.
Like it might have been 25 feet deep and it crumbled at the
Just
back.
from yeah. So take the negative of this. So you have the three walls, and it's about 20 feet long. These would be about like 10 foot, 10 foot, 10 foot, and just like a straight channel, kind of leaving the mountain, leaving the crater. What do people call it? I don't know. I'm open to suggestions,
The buried channel.
or colloquially, the channel.
So since we're metagaming, do we establish what this channel is? Did something index into it once upon a time?
But we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
All right, Jake.
Maybe me. Numbers. Ace of Hearts.
It is time to plant the seedlings. What are the seedlings and where are they planted? What is the harvest that is hoped for?
Kind of talk about that.
We've got extra things you can
Let's see
always
what we do.
skip.
You can do a focus situation
Yeah.
instead, right?
Let's see. There's a term related discarding the card, letting actions. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do a move on. We kind of discussed on the
All right, so you don't want to do any of the
farming aspect.
focus situations? Tell a story, throw a party, discover something, see an omen, leave the frame.
Which I don't know if can they do leave a frame again?
Yeah.
Okay. And I must be. Know there was one thing that you could only do one.
Let's go with see an omen.
All right. Here, the player may gesture at a future possibility. An omen may be the classic type, a comet or a spell gone awry, or something that points at the materiality of the world, a hungry animal in from a famine in the countryside, or an heir to the throne that sickens ahead of a coup. This is a chance to set things in motion. The player narrates what is seen by who, and how it is perceived by those that hear the news.
I think I'm gonna do a kind of a mishmash of a couple of these. Because I always said that a lot of them moved into this area based off of prophecy. I would say someone was probably trying some almost high level magic, and because we're also higher up in the stars being seen as they are, a whole bunch of the stars just started shooting across the sky, and everyone kind of notices that, and a lot of the younger generations kind of go, ooh, ah. The older generations who knew the story of why they were moved on knew that they believed that that was part of what the prophecy foretold would be the stars running across the sky in fear.
That's a cool interpretation of a
I like it.
shower.
Yeah.
Like whatever's that way, scary. Even the stars are running.
Yeah,
It's a good reason to head west.
even the stars are running.
All right. I've got the Three of Hearts. What do people listen to and perform here? Oh, wait. Didn't we do that one? I didn't scribble it out. I've been trying to keep up. Okay. What do people in our place argue about for fun? Whether at the bar, in the square, or in other social spaces.
Mine's bigger. Mine's bigger.
No,
Look at the size of this carrot.
it's definitely going to be about the stars, and specifically how many move.
Oh,
Because the ongoing thing is like everyone, you have access to these stars. It's just they're plentiful, and so early on, counting competitions were the thing. Everyone wanted to be like, I know how many stars there are. But now that they've all moved, everyone's trying to figure out how many moved, and so people are arguing about how many moved and why they moved.
And if they move.
After some time, yes, yeah, there were never that many stars. What are you talking
Stars
about?
don't run across the sky.
Exactly. I don't know what Bob's trying to tell you. All right, Matthew, you're up.
4 of spades.
This is an or question. The bar opens their doors to all. What is the bar and who is a regular there? Or the church changes a core mandate. What is the church and what about their worldview has shifted?
I would say that the bar is probably the largest building in the city / kingdom. I kind of see it as a city. And it's just like a big communal eating place. Like the focus point of the Harvest Festival would probably be the bar. What was the other? Who is
It was
and
an
who
or
was a
question,
regular
so you,
there. I mean, and everyone would
Yeah.
frequent the bar. If you don't feel like cooking, like eating your wife's cooking, you can go to the bar and have Ralph's cooking. Seems
say
like a good
Ralph?
bartender
Off the cook.
with an F.
he's a great
So
cook.
everyone goes.
All right.
Got the 3 of clubs.
A new style, fad, or devotion sweeps our place. What is it? Who cares about it?
Fads, huh?
Style or devotion?
6 days later.
Yeah, 6 days later. What has changed
I
since
forgot about that.
what fad suddenly came up after the harvest? Or style or
Ugh.
something. There was a guy that he made this wonky looking hat, like he out of some of the straw that they had left over from harvesting. He wove it together so it looks like a normal straw hat, but then he took some wool lining from some of the sheep and put it inside, so it's a warm straw hat. And everyone's like, wow, that makes so much sense. I don't know why we didn't do that before. So all these workers are walking around with straw hats that have wool shoved in it. And you can kind of, I mean, the cheap ones have the wool sticking out a little bit, like they're not woven together very well, but the nicer ones are woven together really well, so you can't tell if it's actually lined or not.
Is there a name for these hats?
Probably it would be wool straff.
All right. Alec.
I'm always so surprised. Let's see. I'm just enjoying watching. Let's see. I have the 5 of spades.
This is really entertaining. Oh, I'm playing?
Wow.
Yeah, y'all should do this
Right.
more often.
What secrets are kept in our place? Why are they kept? By who and from whom?
What secrets are kept? We haven't gotten deep into, other than Ralph with an F, we haven't gotten specific into like people's, like specific individuals. So my first thought is a group of someone keeping it from a group of someone. And ooh. So I feel like no matter how idealistic a place can be, there's got to be some semblance of order. So I'll keep it vague for the moment, but I would think the leadership type entity or group is keeping something from the populace. So I would think, or or do I want to double back? No, I'll keep on it. Let's see. Did I write down this? I don't think I wrote down the specifics. The one a while back we talked about. I think it was on Jeremy's poll, possibly. There was an expedition somewhere in like a crater or a cavern, and only one of
Yep,
the
that's
10
fine.
people came back.
Hello.
Got it to
We're
Shiloh.
remembering. It was okay.
Shiloh.
Shout out Shiloh.
Something. Something was found that was never disclosed to everybody. They found a relic in the cavern, and it is kept under lock and key somewhere.
I mean, that tracks because,
Something
like,
was
you know,
found.
the expedition would come back, or one man would come back all bloodied and terrified, and like people in charge would want to absolutely scoop him up for like a debriefing, like, what happened? Tell us about it. And then he would
Yeah.
say all these things, and then he's gonna be
Yeah.
like, you're only gonna tell part of that story if he survived to tell
Yeah.
the story. And they're like, oh, he died
Yeah.
after he got back.
Yeah.
He died.
It was either going to be that or that Ralph was actually importing a certain meat that he says or a certain recipe was his own or something
People.
silly. But I'm
Always
gonna
people.
go with, you know, the governing body in whatever capacity we want to call that kept a discovery that was found in that particular expedition.
Why did they keep the secret? Would it change the status quo? Would it scare people? Like, what was the purpose? Which is just the second part.
Maybe it's to prevent more people from going out and getting more stuff. Because if it was that
Okay.
deadly, it's like, why would they want to all of their laborers going on these missions and just dying, and then
Yeah.
you have less people to work the fields?
I like that. Nothing to see here. No reason to go there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then they can definitely hype it up. It's like,
Yeah.
9 people died on that expedition for nothing, you know?
Yeah. There definitely wasn't a cave full of little golden artifacts. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, can I make an addendum?
No, be quiet. Your turn's over. Go ahead.
So we've already talked about like generational things have passed. People that were there originally are no longer alive, so it would have that knowledge would have had to have been passed down. I want to slightly amend that to that at the time of this, that wasn't disseminated. So what they had done is they put a little memorial up by the cavern, and they placed whatever that was inside of that memorial, like a statue or like like a little nice little plaque of words or whatever, and within the base or whatever, it's held there out of the way, and that knowledge has since been lost to the general public.
So within the base,
So there is some artifact,
like unrecoverable or buried.
I'm gonna say like encapsulated in a little base, maybe.
Okay. So you couldn't get it without destroying the monument.
Yeah, or if there was maybe a little earthquake, something cracked and maybe exposed something,
You live on a volcano. There's a lot of movement.
maybe something could be found.
So a memorial.
That's my
mourning.
addendum.
All right, Jake.
I like that.
Yeah.
5 of diamonds.
The 5. Okay. There is a union. Is it political, emotional, marital? What is newly aligned?
Let's throw a little controversy in there. Let's make it a political union, almost like two families trying to, I guess, take over. I guess in a sense, because I don't know if we have really discussed the whole governing body and how it functions, but I guess you could have say two of the families that are prominent members, merging their families together to kind of gain more influence and
Consolidate the land.
power
Dig it.
in the city.
All
How
right,
does
that's-
everyone else feel about
Yeah.
this? Does the two largest land barons like merging their families? Like, does that sit well with everyone that doesn't own half the crater?
Probably not, because of how they've all lived as like a community. It's like, why is all of a sudden someone trying to change the status of how we've always done things? Probably a point of contention between a lot of people. But it's kind of one of those, it's as big as they are, it's kind of hard to
Push back.
push
Like,
back.
oh, well,
Alec, would you draw a card for me? I'm bugging out again.
While I do, I'm getting a lot of and I am not a historian by any means, but I do like Assassin's Creed. I feel like I'm getting a lot of vibes, or not vibes, but just like thoughts of how they portrayed the Vikings in like that structure. So there was like their leader was called like a jarl or something, but it was like a family, and then that's kind of how they disseminated it out from that like one head of that particular family, and then down like a structure of those. So maybe there's like a few different families or a few different houses, if you will, that are kind of like the quote unquote like leaders or whatever. I don't want to say like
Founders.
government.
more influential.
But yeah, but who's making like
Founding families.
decisions and stuff like that. So that's like the vibe I'm getting. But your card, sir.
Real quick before we do that, Jake, on the intrigue, is the intrigue like Romeo and Juliet, where they fell in love and it's contentious because of circumstance, or is it like the dads are like, you two are gonna get married and we're gonna wrap this bitch up?
It's the dads.
Okay.
It's very much.
Sorry.
It's very much a. It's like, nah, y'all two are getting married
Okay.
in a discussion.
Thank you. I just wanted to fully understand the intrigue.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
All right.
No, it's definitely not a love thing.
6 of diamonds. Someone returns to our place changed. Who are they, and how are they different? I'm gonna say there was a farmer who had some of his livestock get out, and it traveled north. So he went meandering off and ended up at the channel, and he came back without his livestock and just had kind of this, he almost moved to like being emotionless, like very not present. And it lasted for years. Everyone just was it magic? Was it something that he saw? Did he experience something traumatic? No one's really sure, but he changed in a way that was like, he was this very bright, chipper person, and he came back very muted, very gray, very sullen. And just as it seemed like he may have been kind of on the mend or getting his color back, so to say, he passed away. So no one was really sure if it was like a permanent thing or something that just lasted a long time. Bam, that's it. All right, moving on.
Yeah, no, I got nothing. That's pretty good. Like add the creep factor.
Ace of Spades.
Come on, let's bring some horror into this.
All right. The harvest day has arrived. What is being harvested? For what purpose? And how is it being stored?
And I've already established all this. All of the
Carrots.
above with people's hands for food with lots of salt. I would like to leave the frame, and I want to know more about the closest large city. Where are our regional neighbors at in as far as like cultural and technological development? Like, is everyone kind of at this just climbing out of the hunter-gatherer stage, or are the big cities, like more advanced and established, like modern, like more modern building techniques, more modern devices?
I don't know if it would necessarily be more modern, but just simply access to more materials. Like if you think about the way things are built and having more people available to do things, you can just create more extravagant things. But I wouldn't imagine, my idea isn't that it's like, it's Magic City on top of the mountain and Futurama everywhere else where there's the technological divide. To me, it's all kind of the same thing, but it's certainly nicer. And
so no major technological divide. Like the most advanced.
there could be something, but
I will say from since I went first, I wasn't really sure how we're going hours ago, but my thought when I was going, but I like how it's progressed so far, so I'll keep that. I'll preface with that. My initial thought when I was saying like hunters and all that was I had like, because it's ingrained in my brain, it was like D&D hunters and rangers kind of thing. So not necessarily that they were like like nomads, like Homo erectus kind of like hunter gatherers. It was more like they came from somewhere else. This is a new place. That's what I had in my head initially. So, but I definitely like the idea of how it's gone, but two, maybe it was we have this whatever technological starting point we have. They just decided to leave for whatever the reason was, and then went up on the mountain and have kind of like slowed their progression down while the rest of the world hasn't had the filter
Step back.
of they aren't slowed down by their geographical location, so they still have people that are working on massive ships and maybe airships and trade with other areas. They're not just confined to their little section.
Yeah, we're still
right?
only 6 days into our initial creation. So
yeah.
Well, the other thing too is like, the way I kind of think about it is, when you think about like the Lord of the Rings, like the way the elves live versus the type of living that the humans have versus the dwarves. It's not like they're technologically unlevel in some way, even though that they are. But I do think the access to trade and community and everyone being close enough means that they have access to more of those individual things that each one brings to the table. And that's that like there's an advancement there because we are so secluded and, running our own show with our own resources, but we don't really have access to those big trade ordeals. Shiloh?
Yeah.
Jake?
No, I think
Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I like the thought process that they're not necessarily technologically different because they do get some influx of traders, as we've said. So that's not going to be vastly different, not like, caveman versus Futurama levels. But yeah.
I kind of think about, just one quick tangent. Sorry. The what was that M. Night Shyamalan movie where they were like in the woods?
I just
The Village.
The Village. So yeah, it's like that community just branched off and they kind of like stopped while the rest of the world just kept going. That's kind of what I had in my mind.
I'm glad people were just. There's a lot of people on the same wavelength happening throughout this episode, where it's like, oh man,
Love it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But Like after a 10 or 2 from
Oh, yeah,
now, right? Like,
I just
but I agree. Like, yeah, we're still at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So eventually, I feel like we will stagnate and be behind the technological norm. But yeah, fair enough.
Well, we have time where millennia could pass, and we could absolutely
We
run
ever
into
draw
this issue.
tens again.
All right, who just went?
Matt,
a great question.
Ace of
Matthew.
spades. Yep.
You did an out the
Yes,
frame.
yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so Shiloh, you're up.
All right.
We're gonna get
No,
3 tens in a
that'd
row
be
here.
quick ending. Draw. No.
We only moved 6 days.
I
Oh,
10
Hey.
of clubs. Hey.
hey.
So let me pull up my questions here. Choose a question.
Statistics are operating against us at this point.
So okay, so this was the one I was thinking that you can't pick two twice or the same one twice.
Mhm.
There, someone important socially, politically, or emotionally in our place dies. Who were they and how were they killed? How are they remembered after?
They kill my married couple.
I actually, going off of that, it is the matriarch of one of the families that was just connected. She was killed by some herbal poison, which I feel like is a very, I mean, there's probably not a lot of murders happening, but there probably are some. And I feel like that is a very common way because it's prevalent. There's lots of gardens.
People gonna people.
Get easy access.
You know, it's ironic that you're the one talking about someone dying of poison.
Why would I? Why? Well, it's also ironic that I'm the
Just
one that brought
trying
up
to stay in character.
giant spiders, and I'm definitely going to befriend all the giant spiders.
Mhm. So, name the family.
No, it's shiny, Rose. Stay away from it.
Hold on, I gotta clear my mind. It's
not gonna fit in your bag.
Name that popped in my head that I'm not gonna use.
No, let's use it.
Well, I was gonna do Medici, but I don't want to use historical
And why not?
things.
Change it a little.
There
you go.
Medici.
We'll do
We'll do
Medici.
it backwards.
Ichidem.
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 Eacham?
That's a lot.
Ichidem.
Subject
It's
to
the
change.
Ichidem family.
Let me open up my OneNote. I got some.
So
I
is
got
this
some
a
good
family
names. Let me
last
see
name?
here.
Ichidem? Is that's
Yes, this is the family
one of-
name. It's one of the families that was
okay,
just
yeah. Is
connected
it the
in union
mom
with
of
the other big family.
boy or the girl?
We'll go with the son.
And all of the little, the people that work there, they're called Itchies. That's their gang title. Oh, you're an Itchy, huh?
With the itchies.
How are they
Oh,
remembered
Jesus.
after?
Jesus.
So the mother dies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, no, it's not the mother. It's the grandmother because she is the matriarch of the family. She's the oldest. Like, there is no grandfather in the picture anymore. He died years ago. She is like the reigning member of the family. So she's poisoned and they are remembered afterward. She's remembered afterward as, friends of the family obviously think she was a great woman. She led the family fantastically for many years, made them more prosperous. She was one of the heavy hands in guiding this marriage between this family and the other family. I was trying to come up with a name.
We don't have to name them
That's
now.
fine.
Just this one is fine.
The other strong family, she was one of the ones that was very heavy-handed in getting that to happen. Then you have other folks who are maybe not as endured to her, who definitely saw her as a cranky old woman who meddled in things, who was very all about trying to get as much power for the family and for herself as she could. So there are definitely mixed receptions to her death and to the remembrance of her legacy.
All right, let's roll some dice.
All right,
First
I gotta
one
roll
for
dice.
first one for length of time or type of time.
Ooh.
So we're going into weeks.
We are progressing.
We're
keeping it we're keeping it close to home.
right. I'm going 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We have doubled our time.
So we have effectively canned and preserved all of our harvest. What next?
All right, so 2 weeks has passed since the matriarch was poisoned.
Yeah, I think and just kind of glancing through I think the name has not changed. I think our civilization still exists. Her death was not that big.
Does it smell different though?
It smells.
One of the questions, how things have changed.
Have the fire
it probably
started
smells
yet?
like ashy and
yeah.
The sky is probably tinted.
That'll take a while.
You know how you would get that smoke from the wildfires sometimes. Like the sky is definitely red.
So we're pretty much all on board with basically, it's been 2 weeks, not much has changed. Okay, so let's ask this then. How does it feel? Like there's a big power dynamic that just took place, as in a major figure was murdered, and now there's room for this to be significant to the individual families. Do they pull apart? Does the community celebrate? Is it heavy? Is it lighthearted? We could go so many different ways with this.
Have there been any accusations?
Right.
I feel like it would really divide,
Investigations.
it would divide the community, right? Because people are going to take sides between the two families. And then there's going to be people that just completely don't want to get involved.
Or two?
But there's also going to be people who are really concerned about, I'm not sure a good way to say it, but the incoming, what is the word?
Air.
Aristocracy that's about to be created within the community, right? We're going from like a very socialist community, but as one family or two families merging into being like so influential that they're basically just going to take everything over. Like,
But does the merge stay in place? Do people start accusing each other because of the merge that well, this is what happens, and then they separate as a result? Like, was it a short-lived thing because they're now accusing each other?
Maybe the grandmother was poisoned because she saw something. What could have made her a target?
just to a completely unrelated party that did it for the sole purpose of adding doubt to the situation in hopes of preventing the marriage.
The third family.
Or maybe not even like a third
Hmm.
family, just like an organization that, secret organization.
Maybe like a guild, the equivalent of like a guild master or guild master's hall kind of thing, where if the family merge went together, it would you have like three powerful entities, and it kind of shifted it away to the families becoming a stronger unit. And by adding this layer of concern or questionality to it, it stopped that merger and kept the three powers kind of like level.
Well, this entire range of conversation that we just have just kind of reminds me of what the town would do in the bar. Like, they're asking all these questions, they're making all these accusations. These are the conversations they're having. Is like,
Yeah.
what if it was
So this is all the
what if it was
rumors.
that family, and there's just two guys talking about it, and then these other ones are like, oh, I bet it was an inside job, and all the unsure things that we have about this circumstance sound exactly like the types of things the town would be discussing in their off time after this,
Who
being
would
so
be the
fresh.
most negatively affected by something like this? Like, probably the farmers, right? Like, is there an overarching farmers guild? How guild heavy do we want to be? There's a hunters guild. Is there a farmers guild and a mercenaries guild or a militias guild? Like, how are we going to go super guild heavy and add all these different essentially political parties to the mix?
Well, is there still a hunters guild?
We're
Like, it was conceptually the thing that started
it's
the
been
town, but
3 weeks.
is it
I
still there?
think it's kind of over the generations. It's kind of morphed away from hunters because they've been able to like call on livestock and more farming and agriculture in that aspect. So they because the hunters were good with weaponry and all that stuff, they would have transitioned to more of the force that's now considered to be like the militia party as well, to do the scouting and protection and all that. So it started as the Hunters Guild, morphed into letting agriculture take over, and now they've taken the ones that are still in it have taken their weaponry skills and survival skills into the protection and militia
All right,
force.
I'm going to reel us back in. We feel like there's a lot of doubt and distrust amongst people about where it came from. And we're good with that being kind of like the baseline vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Alec, you're up. Let's draw the next
All
one.
right.
Another 10.
6.
Okay. Something small but noticeable is destroyed. What was it, and who or what destroyed it?
Your artifact.
Ooh, I wasn't going to go there first. I was going to stay on the political intrigue, but I like that.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll save it. I was going to say a gift. The the two families that were merging together. The family. Did they get named? The Ichis and the somethings.
The Ichidem is the one.
Yeah, the Ichis gifted a. I'll say it. The other family. They gifted them a garment, a piece of clothing that has been passed down or whatever, and somebody destroyed it, which then caused. That's what people are rumoring was the inciting event to this whole assassination and all that stuff. So the gift that was given was let's say like a I don't know, a dress or a gown or something, and that was destroyed, which then people are rumoring
What was the
started all
name of the hat?
this shenanigans.
Worthwitzer?
The hat, the
I have it written down.
Hold on, I got it
Yeah.
written down.
Woolstroff.
Woolstroff.
Oh, good job,
Woolstroff.
Alec.
It was a ceremonial Woolstroff.
The nicest Woolstroff.
So that and then who did it? I'm gonna say we don't have to go too guild heavy because again, this is a
Also, we're
enclosed
3 weeks
area.
in.
True. I'll say a unnamed prominent figure in the group of tradesmen that are managing the farming side of the settlement. So there we go. That's my addition. Next card.
4 of Hearts.
Something new has been constructed and stands where there was once something else. What was once there and what has replaced it?
It has been constructed. Stands where.
Just to cue you in, since you had the relic idea, you could mess with the monument.
Yeah. I was trying to decide between that or if I should close off your channel.
Be cool.
Because
There
of
you go. There you go.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with I would almost say seemingly almost in kind of like unknown circumstances as to how it was created. Essentially, like a door has been placed in front of it.
Basically, just locking it up.
Yeah,
Anything interesting about the doors, like a large stone door, or
it's almost like a stone door, but there's indecipherable. Like there's some scrawlings down on towards the bottom of it. Those scrawlings of a language that no one seems to be able to
So
read.
wait, so did this door
Oh, we put it
appear
there, right?
overnight, or so it just appeared
Someone put it
and
there.
we don't know where it came from? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's what I was thinking, like kind of like how the channel was created unknowingly. Something
I want to explore this
closed
more.
it.
Does it look like it fell from the sky, or does it look like it raised from the ground? Or was it carried in? Are there drag marks?
I would say probably it probably looks like it was
Interesting.
raised up from the ground.
Is it
Interesting.
snug flush against the rock face?
I dig it.
But
Mhm.
you can still like get on someone's shoulders and look over the top of it and still see the channel, though, right?
Because wasn't it built into the wall? So it was just like
It
a
was
was
it was like a U.
But it's open to the
like
air.
it was a hot
right?
dog bun of stone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
open up, so it was like a hallway with no roof.
The channel should have definitely
okay.
been called the hot dog bun.
Now toss a roof on there.
Hey, Alec, can you draw a card? Because I cannot.
Yes.
Let's just say the channel is closed off.
2.
What is produced in our place right now, and how does it make its way into the wider world? Is this export a physical good, knowledge, or something else?
Enriched soil.
Giant plants.
Fantasy miracle grow.
There you go.
Super soil. Reminds me of the Taltos. We're all the Taltos. If any of our like viewers or listeners get that reference, dude, they would be the coolest person. But that's what we've designed. It's a race from an Anne Rice series, The Witching Hour. The Taltos came from basically the exact place we've created was where they came from.
There you go.
I am going to skip the question, and I'm going to discover something.
Woo.
This is a chance to name a fact that enters the world whole cloth. Maybe a teenager unearths some strange old artifact, or a chemist synthesizes a new periodic element, or a water main breaks in the street. Do not add details to past events. This is a discovery that is happening right now. Narrate what was discovered and why it is important. We live in a land of magic, and one of the magicians, a sorcerer of some sort, was working on some ancient magics and discovered that their magical prowess can be amplified by the stars. That there is a link between magic and the sky. That's all I got.
Do you want us to develop what and how that link is, or are we gonna leave it as an anonymous, vague link that
I
they
think we can leave it.
That's all that's being discovered in the moment. Is some wizard just figured out that magic is either bolstered or derives
Okay.
from, or is strengthened, or can be utilized. I don't know. It just happened. He's like, oh, there's a connection to the stars.
So is magic stronger or more potent at night? Or would it be during the day because of our own star?
Well, I mean, to be fair, the stars are always present. They're just harder to see at night, or they're easier to see at night.
I guess the question would be: is it enhanced by the amount of light given off by the stars? Because sometimes the stars are dimmer on some
That's
days than
probably
others.
something that they'll research, but like that's the main discovery right now. Is
Ooh, they are stronger when they were the shooting stars. I know, which are not in themselves
Somewhere
stars,
earlier,
but
we had
But you know,
a certain like mineral or resource that was in the area. Maybe those are like moon crystal or star crystals, right? Like a type of crystal that can act as a focus that you can channel starlight into or store, let's call it mana in.
their moonstones were sponsored by Nintendo.
not actually sponsored.
all right, Matthew, you're up.
That's no. At least I
No,
know where
there
our
is
moon
no
went.
moon.
We're in it.
We're the
crater
moon.
of the
Oh my
moon.
gosh.
Moon crashed into.
Plot twist.
Ah!
7 of clubs.
Come on, 10, 7.
We're just gonna have 2 10s back to back, and nothing will happen.
This like
I'm pretty
we're
sure that's our
seriously
first
2
7.
weeks and 6 days into this, and it's killing me.
So much has happened.
What is the most beautiful thing in or about our place?
I mean, I feel like we're beating a dead
Ooh.
horse, but the stars.
Yeah.
I like it.
Whatever. I guess we can accept that answer. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I just feel like it doesn't develop anything. It's just like, duh.
Well, I would say it's special to
Yeah.
where we live because of our
It's
elevation.
a lot more clear.
I bet you down below it's not nearly as amazing on a regular basis.
Because we're probably above some of the clouds.
Zero, like,
All right.
Maybe they're always under the clouds. Maybe that's why we were able to discover
everywhere
the
else
connection to
lives
the
in
stars.
England.
Could be all sorts
Yeah.
of things.
We're above the cloud line.
2 of diamonds,
Yep,
eh?
2 diamonds.
A major modification is made to the environment of our place. What is this change? Was it made by someone, or did it simply come to pass?
Infrastructure. We discovered aqueducts.
It's made to the environment. I'm trying to think.
This could be like natural, man-made. It could
Yeah.
be an event happens that changes everything.
I was trying to think because like I thought of like a man-made thing, but I'm not. That's not really change the environment too much. It's just like a building, something that changes the environment.
A harvest fire got out of control.
That was my second choice.
It's a tax collector's office.
Yeah, because we had.
They invented the IRS.
We're on our way to capitalism, anyways.
That was the second sign that they were warned of. The stars were the first one. The IRS was the second.
I'm going to say.
The tax collectors 3.
I'm going to say that there was an earthquake. They have all like there was an earthquake and it caused one of, we'll say, the west side of the crater to have an break open in it. So if you ever seen Land Before Time,
West side of the wall, or
yes,
the ground?
West side, like of the dome itself. So like I don't know if you ever seen Land Before Time, but the Green Valley had the walls around it, and then the second one there was an earth shake that cracked open it. And
you used all the right words.
Yeah, sorry, I did use T-Rex at the end, but it was supposed to be a sharp tooth. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Everything else was on point and appreciated. No, that's no, yeah. This is totally where my mind went when I parted.
So I just want to make sure I'm clarifying, so I'm on track. You're saying that the west side wall cracked in the
Yes.
mountain, and it just gave us access to the outside
Yes.
world. Not anything
Nope,
different
it just
is there. It's just access is now.
created like an opening,
Okay.
and we're not really sure what's on that side since we came in from like the south. I think.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So it didn't open into the area we came from. Like, it's not just a
Mm-mm.
third entrance from the other side. So it's like, gotcha. Okay.
It just like there was an earthquake, and these two mountain points just lit
Okay.
open.
How big?
Big enough for a giant cow to pass through single file.
Like Babe, the big blue ox.
Not quite that big. I don't
Okay.
think our
So like 10 feet wide.
like it's not like you can't march an army through it very quickly, but
All right, Alex.
All right, 7.
Another 7. Well, I mean, we've run through a lot of the other ones. So, invent a specific street, building, corner, overlook, or meeting place. What is it called officially? And then what do the locals call it?
The IRS. All right, so 3 weeks. Ralph expanded his bar to have a rooftop section, and they all call it the rooftop.
Nice.
The Stargazer.
Check. Was that all the beats? A new building?
Yep, that's great.
Done. Ralph has been
It'll be a
doing
great
great,
place to watch the fire.
Good for
and he's
him.
expanding. So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's a little
Oh, yeah,
observation,
like,
a couple of
especially
observation
with
tables.
the new knowledge about the stars, I'm sure he's like a lot of like magic-y people
Yeah.
going up there.
And it's impressive because it's on top of the second floor. So
Mhm.
it's literally like the highest place that you can be in the entire area. All right, Jake.
All right. Cool Hearts.
A breakthrough moment in technology, arts, politics, philosophy, or daily life tips the scales of a power balance. What was this breakthrough, and how does it play out socially?
Breakthrough over technology, arts, political philosophy, or daily life. It's just the skills of a power balance. Or I feel like we already did a power balance tip, and then we tipped it back.
Tip it again.
Let's go back. Let's go balance that again. Let's just do some on the simple side. Since learning that magic is influenced by the stars, like bards using their magic, or when they compose music, are able to add like a more visual representation to their music with their magic.
So how does this tip the scales of power?
Does it have to tip scales of power?
Yeah, so there's a breakthrough moment
Oh,
that tips the scales of power, that tips the scales of a power balance. What was this breakthrough, and how does it play out socially?
I didn't realize it had to read all the way right. Then I didn't think I had to tip scales of balance of power.
You could just say that like one of the families is a family of bards.
Yeah, okay. Let's just do that. It's a musical family using their newfound magical abilities to endear themselves to the people.
All right, this will be the other family, and you get to name them.
Oof. No, I'm gonna do it off of one of my favorite singers, Vols. VOLZ.
Voles
Is this
family.
the other opposing
Nice.
family to
Mhm.
the
Yep,
Ichidem?
Ichidems.
Ichidems.
Voles. Okay.
I mean, bards always are squirrely like that, you know, sing their way into people's hearts. Alec, would you draw me a card? I can't again.
4.
4. A creative or artistic achievement is unveiled. What is it, and how is it received? So farming's been taking place for a long time, and someone discovers that they can grow their crops in a certain way to create furniture and structures. And so someone starts creating over time these living pieces. They're very expensive, but everyone really, really digs them. They're like viney, and then after you break them away from the ground, they stiffen up.
Would
And
have
so
like
someone figured that if you
chairs
grew it a
and
certain
stuff?
way, yeah.
Like all sorts of internal furnitures, like chairs, dressers,
hmm
all sorts of crazy stuff. Oh, that's
But you have to like grow it a certain way and then kill it at the right time for it to hold its shape.
okay.
Yeah, that thing. My mind words.
We're all
Bonsai.
there. It's late.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda. So like, are these exceptionally fast growing vines, or is this like you can have a house next century?
It takes a minute.
Like how long for a chair?
I think the smaller things are probably easier to do. I think everything grows really well here, so for it to get to like a chair size, table size is pretty reasonable. Couple weeks, maybe couple months. But for it to really grow to some of the really large scale stuff, it could take decades because you really have there's a point where it kind of tapers off in how quickly it grows, and so those really big things. So it was only kind of figured out that we can start making these things.
So
It's an art form right now. No one thinks it's particularly all that practical because it's just time consuming.
Okay. So we're 50 years and 3 weeks into the story. So how did he start doing this 50 years ago? It's an old guy that's been doing it for the last 50 years. So there are
It's
the
been a few months.
bases of structures. Okay, so he has
It's new.
only made a chair. The coolest thing he's
Yeah,
done
yeah.
is the smallest thing, but he's I think I can but we can do it like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You're up, Matthew.
I will roll, and it's a 9.
Someone or a group leaves our place. Who are they and why are they going? So I'm going to say that again because I confused myself. Someone or a group leaves our place. Who are they and why are they going? What do they take with them and what do they leave behind?
A bunch of the newest generation, kids that were born here. They think that the grass is greener and the crops grow just as big everywhere else. This place sucks. And they take with them the basics, and they leave behind a bunch of sad parents.
Leaving behind broken hearts.
Yeah, just a bunch of kids think they know what's good for them.
All right.
They probably all died.
Sad parents. Shiloh.
All right. Draw, not faces.
10.
Hey, 10 of spades.
10.
That's our third 10. All right.
You've rolled all the
I
10s.
haven't.
Yeah.
I only got 2.
That's
Just
the majority.
Jake got the other one. All right.
Roll something big.
Well, first I gotta answer a question. It is okay. It's a resting day in anticipation of problems just across the horizon. What is believed to be coming, and how do the inhabitants of our place set these problems aside, for just one day? What their perceived problem is, first of all, they had kids that just up and left, so that kind of sucks. But also, they're a little concerned about that hole that just opened up. They don't know. I think some don't fully know, was it caused by, I don't know, if there's gods or by an external force? Was it the earthquake? That they don't know. They don't know what caused it. They don't know if something's going to be coming through it. So they are, because I'm going to expect, so they're kind of taking a step back and being like, okay, we're going to.
Real quick, can I change my last answer and you can run with it? And I sent the kids through the crack that opened up instead of the real world.
Okay.
And then you go from there. Okay, so you have a bunch of pissed off teenagers.
Well, I mean, that's but the people don't know that. With my question, it's what do they think the problem is? The community at large thinks that there's something going to be coming through that hole. They don't know what caused it. They don't know if something's coming through it. But they're just trying to push that out for a night or a day and be like, you know what? Well, we'll just see what comes. We feel pretty secure with what we got here. Nothing's a giant Godzilla type creature hasn't come out of it yet, so fingers crossed.
Just increased patrols on that side of the crater. Everything will be fine.
I mean, imagine the workload shift after losing a significant portion of all your people when everyone's just struggling to survive. You got to start kind of reorganizing how everything's structured.
Been power struggles and a matriarch was poisoned. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're the future is a little less certain than it was 2 weeks ago.
All right, let's roll that first die.
Go higher than a week or a day.
That'd be awesome.
No, we cannot. We cannot.
Oh man. All right. How many weeks have passed?
6. Hey. 2 months.
Hey.
Making progress.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
That's great.
All right. So we took a day of rest and we're concerned, we just lost a bunch of our workforce. We have to reorganize, restructure, and that new hole in the wall is a worry. But it's now 6 weeks later. Has anything changed? Did something happen?
Did the kids come back from the crack?
I don't think so. How long of a journey do we think it is to get from the top of the mountain down, from the crater down?
Oh, it's got to be at least a month.
Yeah, so they're probably just now, if they made it, reaching their destination. I think because we recently had a earth shake, the hidden relic that I alluded to earlier may not be so hidden, so it is exposed and able to be seen again.
Just
I'm
fall.
going to say that there is new plant life growing through the crack.
Ooh,
Ooh.
I like that.
which attracts some new creatures.
That vine from Jumanji.
Yeah. Is it a plant? Is it a flower?
It's almost like terraforming. Like if you imagined like just the, at this point, let's say it's only 30 feet in kind of from the perimeter of the entrance, but it's almost like it's changing the plant life to be whatever it is. So it's like it's evolving into something new and growing.
Does it seem creepy? Like, does it give off?
I
like,
mean,
an
I would be
ominous creepy
terrified
vibe?
if it like there's this new
It's a creeping vine.
biome thing kind of growing
not
into
like-
your living space.
Pulsing red or anything, though.
No, a lot of people that go and now watch it swear they can see it move, but I
Ooh.
bet you no one can.
And it's not just growing virulently, it is physically changing. Like, we're watching blue flowers turn into palm
Like when you watch
fronds
the
or
hour hand on a clock, I swear I can see it moving.
whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
We know it's getting bigger, so it's moving, but I think
yeah, those kids are screwed. It definitely are dying.
oh yeah, we're totally gonna go down and see like vines coming through skeletons and stuff.
Oh,
We say kids. I assume they were like teenagers and up, so they're fine.
Yeah, 17 to 20. Yeah, old enough to know better.
The rest of the questions are, we address what it looks like, how it feels. It's still the same
same.
name. Should we move on? Draw the next card.
Next card is a 7.
A forgotten aspect to our place is recovered. What is it? Corner, a basement, a hidden garden, maybe
A hidden relic. That is just check. And okay, what is it?
what is it? What is the relic? Is it a chef's hat?
A chess set. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I don't want to.
Is
I
that a
don't want to
chef's hat?
encroach
Chef's
on
hat.
another RPG property, but maybe it's something polyhedral in shape, not dodecahedron, but because I love dice. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a polyhedral shape that is polished. No numbers, obviously.
But that could be really cool and also fourth wall meta.
Yeah.
Like,
So I don't know if it comes.
and then whenever someone
Yeah.
throws it, something happens. Either
Yeah.
you succeed or they
It's
fail.
got like it's like metallic, but it also has like an obsidian look in it. Yeah, they find.
Is it heavy?
Okay. So I'm gonna say it's yay big, like basketball, maybe. And it weighs 75 pounds.
Thick boy.
Yep, solid. No seams, no creases, no cracks. It looks pristine, even though somebody pulled it out of rubble of a fallen memorial.
Does it have numerals or writing on the 20 faces? Or
Just
polished,
polished,
smooth on all
polished
20
smooth, no
faces?
numbers. Just do we want to say 20 side? Yeah, why not 20 side? Hashtag meta.
An icosahedron.
Is it an icosa? I couldn't remember if that's what the number was. But yes, a 20-sided object. That worked out
All
so
right.
perfectly.
Jake, what's up?
All right.
Another 10.
Hey,
Hey,
10 of diamonds.
Ain't that the last
Yes.
one?
That's
So
the last
the
That
one.
game
is.
is done.
Good night.
Like,
let's travel in time.
We ain't done yet. We got to answer a question and go
well,
through time.
it says if that's the fourth card, then the game is over. Instead, refer to the section ending the game.
What?
No questions answered. No time is
One of us
moved.
finished reading.
We're
We just go.
We're just that's the
I like that. What is that from?
What the
Merida's Beacon?
Meridia's Beacon? It's from
Meridia's
Skyrim.
Beacon?
When you
Oh.
touch it, a new hand has touched the beacon. It yells at you and is so rude.
Oh, I do like that it's there. It's not symmetrical. Like it's not
Mhm.
the same. So I might toss that on there.
So it's this thing, not a proper D20.
Yeah, I like the look of that. Well, nope. I already said it was a D20. It's a D20. Never mind. I'll stick with it.
Just when you're describing it, that's the first thing. And unfortunately, there's not like a good gift for it.
Yeah.
So I go find a picture.
I never got into the Elder Scrolls. I tried.
So
I was
Yeah, I played.
I was
through it
playing WoW
once,
at the
but
time, so it was hard to
Mm.
break away.
I started on Morrowind when I was a kid, which was weird. And then I beat Oblivion when Dylan and I got together. I've done Skyrim. So, and I also played Elder Scrolls Online for a bit too.
You played through Skyrim like 14
Something like
times.
that.
It's my best friend too. Every character, he'll just and he like even all this time later, he'll just get an idea and start over.
All right, what do we do next?
All right, so we can, because the story's over, doesn't mean we cannot make some conjectures. So the final question is, what happens tomorrow in our place? Who wakes up? Does anyone? What do they see? What is the feeling they get from the world? Because, like, ironically, we are at this really cool juncture in space where this crack opened up and now this new biome is spilling in. This new relic was just unearthed, and we are come back for part 2 to find out what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think is
That is
going to happen?
Like, I guess my question would be, I may be getting ahead of myself, and I apologize. Where are we going to be starting our story? Are we going to be starting it in this crater or in one of the other
So-
not yet mentioned areas?
Here's the caveat to that. I'm leaning this way, is that we roll one more time to advance time, and that'll be our starting
I love that
position
idea.
in time. It may not be here per se, but like maybe it is, but at least we could advance time and see where it takes us.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
The option of something new.
My bet, we're gonna get days or weeks. I think it's gonna be like, yeah,
Tomorrow.
it's tomorrow. It's literally
Yeah.
tomorrow.
oh man, Snake Eyes would be
A
insane.
1 and a 1.
Who wants to do the honors? Oh yes, you
Roll Snake Eyes.
pulled it. So
It's you, buddy. Yeah.
All right, first one.
Hey!
oh, look at that.
That's
So what is that? That's
It's like a century,
Decades.
I think. Decades?
Decades.
How many decades?
Hey, another 50 years.
Yeah,
5
5
decades.
decades. It's been 50 years since
Years.
the wall opened
all the children, everyone of childbearing age left.
and the relic was unearthed.
50 years later.
So it's like the lost generation.
Maybe there's nothing
Ooh.
left of that place. Maybe it's just a ghost town.
We're gonna find just a rapid an area that like you go into ruins and it's like, oh, it's been here for hundreds of years, but we're gonna go into essentially ruins, just in abandoned. I guess abandoned would be more accurate, like an
Just
abandoned
overgrown with
Well, I
whatever.
guess-
tavern, of a city.
There might still be people alive because if there were
Yeah,
people
true.
from other races,
True.
you
true.
have elves
I'm-
who
Well,
live
not even
for
that they're
who knows how long.
necessarily dead.
That is true.
Yeah.
Which we're gonna figure out
So
all
maybe
of
that's
those.
They
only
were
elves.
pushed
Roll,
out by the plants.
yeah, can we roll for
as
elves?
the invasive, because it only took, where it just
Maybe,
a couple
yeah.
weeks, or no, it was a couple months for it to come 40 feet in, right?
Mhm.
So extrapolate that out to half a century. Like the crater's probably just been overtaken with that plant.
Yeah.
Or maybe they built
There's
a barrier
Did
around
they?
it, or
Yeah,
maybe they fought
yeah.
it back. There's a lot could happen in 50 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of on Jeremy at this
Yeah.
point. Like we've created the
Yeah.
basis and stuff, but now
Yeah.
it's up
Tell
to-
us what happened.
It's up to Jeremy to decide.
Yeah.
So I guess are our characters
Yeah.
starting in this town, or are our characters starting elsewhere?
I think we find that out next
Okay.
episode.
I don't know that you'll find out next episode because we're just doing character creation, which will be talking about classes and races and asking a bunch of questions and getting some backstories. And then episode 1 will be, hey, you're somewhere with people. Go do adventure-y things.
Was
I don't
unintended
want
or
to. I want to stay at home and make cold beef stew.
Ooh.
Ugh.
So we did roll. Is there do we want to officially do those questions of like, how does it look, how does it all that,
No,
or
it's
did
over.
we kind of just spitball it?
just
It's
didn't
over.
notice it.
We don't get to answer any questions. We
Okay.
just get to speculate.
Love it.
You get to speculate. I
decide.
get to control.
Ooh,
I get to
Plan.
decide.
fun.
Uh-huh.
God.
I do kind of I do kind of like that we did like a very focused
Yeah.
look, and then we're out.
Yeah,
Hmm.
You know,
that's kind of cool how that
talking
worked out.
about some murder and poison, political stuff.
But what's cool though is like this game can be played twice
Oh
and
yeah.
it'd be vastly different. I mean, imagine if we had jumped
Oh,
ahead
absolutely.
500 years the first time. The types of like the things that we talked about wouldn't have
I
mattered.
like
It's like,
this
what is it
game.
like
This
now?
is fun. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
this was an option for
It
entertainment.
was
Like I
interesting.
want
It was
more
interesting.
of this. Like I want to play this more often with you guys or anyone else. I don't care. This is fun. I like theory crafting.
All right, so this was our world building episode. Stay tuned for next week when we have our player creation. We're going to go over backstories and individuals. We're going to ask a bunch of questions. And following that, we're going to get into our campaign, which is going to take place in this very unique world we just created. So see you next time.